Heck yeah. All right. Hey guys, what's up? It's Cameron from MTG Eats. This time we are going to be making a Bayou-Style crispy tilapia, courtesy of HelloFresh again. And since we are making some fish, we might as well do some top 10s on fish. So our thing is going to be, where I get these lists, that is from Scryfall Advanced. And then you do, for me, I did my type line, which was fish. So all our cards that are creatures that are fish. And then I sort it by EdhRec, and I give it that no card can be more than $1. I've pre-prepped this time around, so you guys can take a look-see at all my yummy things that I've pre-cut up. Very colorful, very nice. And we will start talking. So we're going to start with number 10, which is the Windrider Eel. It is 3 and a blue, and while we're doing that, we're going to take these potatoes we've cut up. I'm going to put them on this. So it's a 3 and a blue for a 2/2 with landfall. Very popular these days. So it's got landfall. When a land enters the battlefield, it gets +2/+2. And it's got flying, if I haven't already mentioned it. And that is very important. Very nice. Because that means you get a couple landfall triggers, and you've got, what, even just a 4/4 swinging in every turn? If you're doing a landfall themed deck, though, it means you're getting 3-4 land drops a turn. So it's like a 10/10 at best. That's still 10/10 for 4 mana that's flying, so it's got evasion. That's pretty heckin' good if you ask me. Obviously, decks you're going to be playing this in are decks like Omnath, Locus of Creation, the Teamer Omnath, and other like landfall-centric things. And it is a fish. And it's a cool card. Like I said, it's cheap. Definitely if you're building budget landfall, because landfall can get kind of expensive because it's been pretty popular these days. It's definitely something that is a good budget include. It'll get the job done. Just like this will get the job done. We're going to be putting this guy in here for 20 to 25 minutes. That is going to be delicious. We'll set this to 25. I'll set it to 23. Because it's 20 to 25. I tend to do that middle ground. Next on our list is we're going to make our serving stuff that we're going to eat with it. Just want to grab after all this, I still managed to forget something. A little bowl to combine some things in. Which will be fun. And in this bowl, we're going to combine mayonnaise, mustard, and our scallion whites. So we got our mustard right here. And while we do that, we will talk about number 9, which is, well, it's not used in Commander all that often. It's certainly a limited bomb. And that is Surge Mare. It is just blue, so 2 blue, for a 0/5. Probably thinking that's kind of odd. A really great card in limited, but it's 0/5. Usually those guys don't do well. But it's got a little extra to it. It can get bigger, so you can pay 1 and a blue, and that'll give it +2, -2 till end of turn. And then, on top of that, it can't be blocked by green creatures, so all those pesky green players that keep getting in your way, you can get right through them. And whenever it deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card, and if you do, you discard a card. So this is solid in any decks that want to get damage through, that just want cheap, efficient creatures, and just do a little bit of damage. So there's going to be things like EdhRec is a great choice. This guy can be pretty good in Azuri Claw of Progress as you make him bigger. Let's get a fork so we can mix this bad boy up. So we've got our mayonnaise, we have our mustard, and then we need our white scallions, which I showed you guys I cut up just a moment ago. And then, wow, that mayonnaise, it's like Jell-O, but just not nearly as yummy. We'll grab our sour cream, cut this bad boy open. slide that in. So yeah, Surge Mare is a solid card to be sure. Great in decks that want to get damage through. It's obviously like not amazing, but I mean, this is a budget build. So we work with what I got, and it's really good for the budget. Under $1, can't be blocked by green creatures. Green creatures are super prevalent in EDH, so there's plenty of guys that aren't going to be able to block it. And 2 mana for a 2/3, or then a 0/5 because a 2/3, and then at best it's a 4/1. 4/1 is pretty solid. So we're going to take this guy and add half the paprika, a squeeze of lemon juice, and we are not going to add any salt. So we've mixed this up. We're going to put this on the tilapia after we're done with it. Toss all that in the trash. Next, we've already put our potatoes on the baking sheet. So now we have our tilapia fillets to play with. That's these bad boys. And while we talk about the fish that we're going to eat, we'll talk about some fish that we aren't going to eat because it's a magic card. Like Skitter Eel. Skitter Eel is also 4 mana, just like the Windrider Eel. In fact, it's the same cost at 3 and a blue. However, it is a 3/3 instead of a 2/2. And instead of having landfall, is there any liquid in this? No, okay. Instead of having landfall, it has adapt for 2. It came out in the Ravnica set. Ooh, look at that yummy fish. Yum, yum, yum. Not quite Skitter Eel yummy. I'm told that as a delicacy on Ravnica, but we'll do what we can. So we will slice these guys in half like so. There's going to be a big side and a little side, as I was warned of via HelloFresh. They really want to make sure I knew what I was getting into, I guess. So we've got our halves cut. Yummy, yummy. Yummy, yummy. And then Skitter Eel. So, like I said, 3 and a blue for a 3/3 with adapt 2 for a 2 and a blue. And we're going to take this guy. We've toweled them off already, so now we're going to make the stuff it's going to go in. So in this little dishy here, we're going to combine our fry seasoning and talk about that Skitter Eel. So this guy is going to be great in any deck that cares about counters, because adapt, what that does is it gives you counters equal to the adapt number. So in his case, it's adapt 2, so he'll get 2 +1/+1 counters. And we are going to add the sour cream and a tablespoon of water. So anyways, as I was saying, Skitter Eel, great in any +1/+1 counter decks, things of that nature. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a 4 mana 3/3 fish mutant. That's going to be a common theme. You guys will notice a lot of my guys are not just fish. There's a few. I believe number 7 is. And that's at least one of them. So we're going to add this and then a tablespoon, I believe is what I said. Yummy, yummy. Yep. Water to get it all nice and mixed up. It's not a bad card by any stretch, and in a +1/+1 counter where it's already got a way to get bigger, there's plenty of uses for it. But outside of that, it's just a fun fish. If you want to make an aquarium deck, I have an aquarium deck. If you guys want to get a deck tech on that craziness, just let me know. So right now we're making a thing that we're going to dip our fish into to kind of give it a nice little bayou taste. At least that's the game plan. And then we can move on while we do that to talk about number 7, which I alluded to early here, which is actually one I enjoyed card of mine while I was playing Arena, and that is the Stinging Lionfish. So Stinging Lionfish is much cheaper than our guys before. He's only 1 and a blue for a 2/1, so it does have some power, but he's pretty killable. Okay, so that is mixed up. So we're just going to spread that out because we're going to want to pat stuff on it. And it has a really, really useful ability. It says tap target creature every time you cast, the first time you cast a spell on an opponent's turn. So it's opponent's turn. They've got a big old 5/5 coming at you, or 7/7, or let's be honest, it's usually their commander coming in for commander damage. You cast Opt while stinging Lionfish is out on the battlefield. It's going to see you've cast a spell on your opponent's turn. It'll trigger, tap down their commander. You get one more turn. And if you can do that quite a few times, you'll probably get a few more turns than that. Is this what we wanted? I was right. It was cornstarch panko. I got the power to remember things sometimes. So we're going to take this panko, add it onto this plate, like so. We're going to cut open cornstarch, add it to this plate as well. Hey, sorry, I want you guys to be able to see it. And then we will mix this up with a new fork once again, because we don't want to get it all dirty with the stuff that we're going to, because we need it to stay kind of, not like serene, but nice and connected so that when we do add the tilapia to it, it is as effective as it can be. So there we go, mixing that up. So I do really like the stinging lionfish. It's great for control or heavy interaction decks, depending on who you ask, in a way to kind of keep creatures off you and also have a bit of politics play. Hey, you know, are you going to attack me? If you are, you know, then I'll have to tap your creature down and you'll be easy pickings for the other opponents, or you can not attack me and maybe I'll use it on one of your opponents that you want me to use it on. Politics is a big part of Commander, in my opinion. Honestly, one of my favorite parts. So whenever it can be utilized through a card, especially a fishy card, that's when I like it the best. So we have made our two things. So now it's time to add these bad boys to the mixtures. So we will start, what we're going to do is we're going to take each one, we're going to dip it in this guy, like so. Flip it around, dip it in this guy, get my hands all nice and dirty, because that's what I wanted. And then we will dip it in the panko, as you can see here. Flip that around, dip it in the panko on the other side, so it's got some crunchies on it. And then we're going to toss it into this pot. And I'll move that to the side, since I'll have more to add. And we're going to do that, the same thing with the other three, and then that way I can just kind of talk about the stuff I want to talk about, because you guys know what's happening. So, stinging lionfish, big fan of him. And then the next card, number 6, is an interesting card for Commander. Another one that kind of be like, well, how is that really useful for Commander? And it's the Gurmag, I hope I say that right, Angler. And what he has is he is a very expensive fishy, zombie fishy. And he has Delve. Delve is very good in all sorts of formats. Commander, not quite usually. But as I was making this list, I realized that there was a commander that really likes Delve. And that commander is Sir Conrad. So we've got our Angler, who's 6 and a black, so he is quite expensive. But like I said, he has Delve and he's a 5/5, so he's a respectable blocker. And he's going to exile cards from your graveyard for you. Well, ain't that just nice as nice can be? Because in decks like Sir Conrad, where it says whenever a creature would leave your graveyard, he triggers. This also means he triggers on if he's not your commander. But if we're making a Delve deck with Sir Conrad, he will be your commander, right? And so you fill your graveyard with a bunch of creatures, and then you play cards like this guy and other delve effects to send them out of your graveyard for this huge damage hit, where you're just sending all these cards out of your graveyard. So think of that. Say you got 6 creatures in your graveyard. This Gurmag Angler is now a 1 black mana for a 5/5 that also does 6 damage to each of your opponents. Seems pretty good. My hand is dirty. So next, it's time to cook these bad boys now that they're coated. So I will use this that I was drying them on to clean the old hand-a-roonies and see if we don't need to add. Why don't we add a little more of this on top, just a little extra crunch. Who doesn't like a little extra crunch? There it is. While we do that, now that these guys are plentifully cornstarched, we will talk about number 5. Actually, before we talk about number 5, I know I said I was going to talk about number 5, but I was thinking we'd put our honorable mention in right here. And this is a card that I have in that aquarium deck. I think he's hilarious. I think he's funny, and I think he's slightly good. And this is the Wormfang Manta. So right now, just so you know what's going on, these guys are cooking. We got the stuff in the oven, and that is going, and that is pretty much all we have to do right now. So, the Wormfang Manta. What a card. It is 5 blue. So it's 7 mana, so we're assuming it does something really cool, right? Well, it kind of does. It's a 6/1 that gives you an extra turn. I know, right? Super good. Super crazy. But when it enters the battlefield, you have to skip your next turn. And you don't get the extra turn until it leaves the battlefield. So, some setup. It's not even like you can be like, oh, I'll have it enter the battlefield and then real quick sack it, because then you've just netted even. You just skip your next turn, which is the turn that you got from losing the Wormfang. So instead, you play him real early, or as early as you can. And then you just take the loss. You know, dang, it stinks. You skip the turn. If you have a very not budget card, like Seedborn Muse, or a slightly more budget card like Wilderness Reclamation, you can make more use of this because, you know, you're playing on the opponent's turns anyway. Your cards are untapping. Your lands are untapping, so you don't quite feel that lost extra turn as much as you would in a deck that doesn't have something of that nature. So let's grab this guy, because we will need to flip soon. But it's good for now. Right now it's sitting. We're going to have that cook for about 2 to 3 minutes per side, which is good because we got about 8 minutes left. So, yeah, I think it's a fun card. It's in the aquarium deck. I don't have any way to like abuse it or anything like that. It just comes out and I skip my turn. And then later, if I'm lucky, I get an extra turn. And I just think it's fun. It's an honorable mention. I think it's in the top, it just barely missed the top 10. It's number 11. And I think that's just because it's 7 mana to skip your turn. But you'll get an extra turn later. You just gotta be patient. But it's a fun card and I like it. So anyway, back to our top 10. We're at number 5. Number 5 is the Elusive Krasis. And this guy also goes in those commander decks I was talking about, like Azuri Claw of Progress and EdhRec Spymaster of Trust. So he is a 1, a green, and a blue for a 0/4. A 0/4 that is unblockable, though. So they're not hitting your 0/4 at least. But it also has Evolve, which is the important part. And Evolve says whenever a creature enters the battlefield, if it has a higher power or toughness than the creature that has Evolve, it gets a +1/+1 counter. So, while it may not be great the minute you play it, you can, I don't think you can flash it, I think it's a different card. But yeah, so you can play it, and it can't attack anyway, but the next turn, you play a creature, even a 1/1 will trigger to make it a 1/5. And now it's an unblockable 1/5. Next thing you know, it's an unblockable 3/6. You know, it just keeps going up and up and up, or 3/7. Math is hard, don't worry about it. So while it kind of has a rough start to 0/4, if you don't get any other creatures on the next turn, then it's a 0/4. It's definitely not something you want to top deck, because then you're not going to, you have to pray you get another creature. But outside of that, it is pretty darn good. So The next card is number 4. It is the Breaching Hippocamp. And it will be connected to the next one, number 3, but we'll get to that when we get to that. I'm still mixing up my horrendous concoction, trying to get it to really mix in there. And so the Breaching Hippocamp is 3 in a blue, 4 mana again. It's been a common factor, that 3 in a blue. But this guy does something extra special. It is a 3/2 that when it enters the battlefield, it untaps target creature. And that is very important, especially for very specific decks, such as, that is yummy looking. Getting crispy. Getting crispy. And it'll get even crispier on the other side where there's a bunch more cornstarch and panko crumbs. So, as I was saying, the Breaching Hippocamp untaps a creature. And this, the reason it's so high up here, because it goes really well in a very specific deck, Prime Speaker Vannifar. And as you can see, it taps to sacrifice a creature. And then you get to look for a creature that's +1 to the CMC, or mana value as we're calling it these days, of the creature you sacrificed. And so there's a chain where basically you sacrifice a 1 mana, which untaps her, you sacrifice a 2 mana, it untaps her, sacrifice a 3 mana, which is going to be one of the ones that we talk about in just a second. And then you sacrifice that 3 mana to get a 4 mana, which will be the Breaching Hippocamp. It'll untap her, you'll sacrifice it, and it goes all the way up until the Mighty Protean Hulk for an average Protean Hulk combo. Which is fun and all, but like that's why it's up there. It's certainly not budget, but it is in the top 10 for budget. So while the deck that it goes really well in is not budget, it is, and so it has been included. But hey, if you have untapped synergies or shenanigans that are in your deck, you're like, man, I'd love to have creatures that enter the battlefield and untap, especially if you like maybe like a tap flicker action, however you see that. Perfect card for you. It'll certainly get the job done if nothing else. And if you're playing green, you can do a cheaper version of it, that it also is included in the Prime Speaker Vannifar combo, and that is the Bounding? Yes, the Bounding Krasis, which is a 1 a green and a blue for a 3/3 with flash and untap. So this one would be cooler, like the flash would mean more if you weren't sacrificing it to Prime Speaker Vannifar anyway, so the flash didn't really matter as much, but it's still a cool effect, and if you need like a quick blocker, you can untap your creature and be like, JK, it can attack. So it's not bad by any stretch. It goes in a very not budget combo. Let's check our guys out. It looks like they're still cooking on that side. They haven't sizzled quite as much as they did on the other side, so we'll leave them there for a little longer. In fact, we'll probably add some more to this guy because he looks like he could use it. We've got a minute left on our potato wedges. We're in our top 2. So the number 2 is Jace's Mindseeker. It's a really cool card. I have it in one of my decks, but it is a mill-centric deck. And what Jace's Mindseeker does, it has target opponent mill 4 cards, and then you may cast an instant or sorcery milled that way without paying its mana cost. That's a really cool effect, and its mana cost, or its mana value, and I'll hold that thought. Jace's Mindseeker, super cool, and 6 mana, 4 and 2 blue, so a hefty cost, but it is a 4/4, so that's nice, and it does have flying. Plus, it has that really awesome ability that I mentioned earlier. Great in mill decks where you're trying to mill people out anyway, or maybe in enter the battlefield flicker kind of decks, like Rune, where you're just trying to flicker things a bunch. So that's a great way to mill through someone and to get a bunch of instant sorceries that they're just crazy, kind of chaos level. Like you don't know what you're going to get. You hope you're going to get something. Maybe you get nothing. I really like it. It's great in a mill deck that wants to mill anyway. So if you don't get anything, well, hey, you still have a 4/4 flyer that milled them 4 cards. Oh, that is taking a while. Let's put that back on that side. Really let them press down so they get a good cook going. And then our number one card, the top dog when it comes to being a fish, being a magic card, and being under $1, according to EdhRec, of course. All of that combines to give you the Wavebreak Hippocamp. Yep, the number one card in all the cards in Magic is a card from Theros Beyond Death. One that is still in Standard, mind you. So I don't know where that puts you guys in power creep and all that jazz, but it's a good card and I like it. It's similar to the Stinging Lionfish, which understandably is also from Theros Beyond Death. And it says that whenever you cast your first spell on an opponent's turn, just like the Stinging Lionfish, but instead of tapping an opponent's creature, you get to draw a card. And that is some value, especially in like mono blue, like instance sorceries, any kind of like flash instance level deck, because you have 3 opponents in a game of Commander. So through one turn, you've drawn 3 cards. And that's some pretty value for a Wavebreak Hippocamp that is only a 2 and a blue. It's 3 mana. So if you play that and then manage to find a way to cast a spell, it's gotten 3 cards already. So it's a 3 mana for a body that's a 2/2 and drew 3. All I can say except it's a top-notch card. All right, you guys, let me finish up cooking the tilapia, and I'll be back to kind of talk to you guys, kind of show you what we finished up. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. I will do my best to read any comments you guys send and respond as efficiently as possible. We'll get some salad here. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions. I hope you enjoyed it. If you guys, a great question. If you guys have an opinion on what I should do a top 10 next, and I'll even try to find a way to pick a good meal that goes with that. How does that sound? So yeah, I will plate these bad boys, and you guys can tell me what you think. There is a sauce that we can put on the salad, but we're going to let the consumers of said food pick what they would like. All we got to do is add the sauce. We are good to go. Figure you guys only really need to see one completed one, but there you go. Bayou-Style crunchy tilapia with some potato wedges and a nice little salad. Have a supercalifragilistic expialidocious day.